Hey guys, it's Rift here, and today I've got a very special video for you guys, because we've looked at many bad Spider-Man 2 takes on this channel, and we've even looked at Harman Smith and some of his controversial opinions. So today, let's marry those two ideas. We're going to take a look and see what Harman Smith thinks of Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I hope you enjoy.
It looks as if Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 is having a number of issues upon release. I'm hearing reports that there's an installation problem where the game isn't playable for a lot of people because a patch isn't downloading correctly.
He is half right, as some physical copies of the game did fail to install or download. As far as I'm aware at least, this was a day one issue and it's long since been patched. And hell, if you bought a digital release of the game, you wouldn't have ran into this issue.
I'm seeing people complain about wokeness, I'm seeing people complain about the declining quality from the first game in general.
I genuinely don't understand people who complain about the wokeness. Like, if you're unironically gonna ignore character and plot and all the rest of it, and just be like, oh, there's a black guy in the game, oh, the women aren't attractive, I don't know, that seems more like a you problem and not an objective criticism. Although, referring to the gameplay, I've heard no complaints about that, and it is pretty much a no-nonsense upgrade over the original. The only criticism people levy is that they wish that the gadgets were more like the PS4 game, which I understand that. It was definitely a change, but all of the criticism seems to be levied towards the story and not necessarily the gameplay itself.
And then there are people like me who would never ever support the game to begin with because it has Miles Morales, right?
I mean, let's be honest, the reason you're not supporting the game is because it's not a Nintendo Switch exclusive. Like, if this game was on the Switch, I guarantee you'd be singing a different song right now. Also, what the fuck was that comment? I don't support the game because of Miles Morales. I'm not gonna,
Who is not Spider-Man, right?
I mean, Stan Lee once said that the reason Spider-Man wears a mask is so anyone can be the character. So the fact that a random black guy is Spider-Man shouldn't be an issue, right? I mean, that's what Stan Lee said, and he created the fucking character.
When I buy a Spider-Man game, I want to play as Peter Parker.
Wait, you mean the main character in the story? And the guy that you basically beat every single main boss with?
Spider-Man, not some wannabe cosplayer.
So you hate Miguel O'Hara as well, right? So I imagine that Edge of Time and Shadow Dimensions you also hate because when I buy a Spider-Man game, I want to play as Peter Parker. Even though there've been literally many different Spider-Men. So, I don't understand people who say this. It's like, oh, you want to play as Peter Parker. Fair enough, he's probably the most iconic Spider-Man ever, and he always will be, but that doesn't mean we have to neglect all the others.
That, the self-insert character for the writers.
Oh my fucking god, he actually thinks that the black guy was a self-insert for the writers. Oh, that's just so fucking good, isn't it? Although on a serious note, Miles Morales has been a thing for over 12 years, so no, he wasn't a self-insert at all. That's fucking stupid.
Okay, I want Peter Parker in my Spider-Man game, so...
If only there was a Spider-Man game where Peter Parker is the main fucking character, and you use him for pretty much every single boss other than Mr. Negative. Sorry, nothing's coming to mind.
It's interesting to see kind of the narrative around Spider-Man 2 fall apart, because for the past couple of months, people were hyping this up as the next major release for PlayStation. This was going to be the big thing. This was going to stomp Mario. This was going to be
Okay, but that did happen. There was basically nothing else coming to PlayStation that year. This was the game for PlayStation. It was the best chance they had at a major success. Also, what the fuck was that comment? Oh, it was the best chance at stomping Mario. Who the fuck cares about Mario? You're comparing a Nintendo Switch exclusive to a PlayStation exclusive at the time of making this video. Who gives a fuck? The only one who thought that Spider-Man was gonna try and take down Mario was you, because you're a fucking numbskull.
A huge deal, but as the months dragged on, as we begin to learn more and more about it, as we begin to see get those pre-order numbers in, Mario was outselling it on Amazon.
Harman, are we really gonna be doing the sales equals quality argument again? Okay, I'll bite. Super Mario Wonder, at the time of making this video, has sold nearly 12 million copies, which is insane. However, Spider-Man 2 has sold over 11 million copies in the first 6 months of its release. Which is actually insanely impressive when you factor in how many Switches there are versus PlayStation 5 sold. There are over 140 million Switches, whereas there are roughly about 20 million PlayStation 5s, which is insanely impressive because half of the people who bought a PS5 have bought Marvel Spider-Man 2. Compare that to Super Mario Wonder, where barely a tenth of the population who own a Switch have bought the game. So yes, when you compare the two side by side and do the maths, Spider-Man 2 was a bigger cultural success for its platform than Mario Wonder was for the Switch.
When we saw those review scores, Mario outperformed it.
Firstly, why the fuck are we using reviews to compare these games? Reviews are inherently subjective. Although the second thing is that if we compare the Metacritic scores, Marvel Spider-Man got a 90 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder got a 92. They were almost neck and neck, which is insanely impressive given how many free handjobs that Nintendo games get. I mean, take a look at this article. There are 2 Nintendo-based platforms that reviewed the game and gave it basically perfect scores. Meaning that Marvel Spider-Man 2, with no free handjobs, almost came close to beating Mario. A friendly reminder that Spider-Man 2 nearly beat the most iconic IP in all of gaming.
When we saw like the games themselves, like it was pretty obvious, like to everyone, that wasn't a complete snoy, that Mario was the far superior game. But I had...
Because it's a Switch exclusive. And because it's Mario. I know, you guys may think it's foolish of me to entertain this argument, but I took the bait and I looked at Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it just looks like another Mario game. The 2D platformers haven't been all that impressive since Super Mario Bros. Wii, over 15 years ago.
Plenty of people in my comments section, in my community posts, like trying to tell me, no, Spider-Man is better. It's open world. Mario's just a 2D platformer. It's not even a major release for Nintendo.
I mean, if you want to get petty about it, then Super Mario Bros. Wonder is an insignificant release for the Switch. Because yeah, it's sold a lot of copies, and yeah, it's basically gonna be universally praised because it's Mario, but again, this guy preaches the whole copies sold argument. It's sold barely any copies in comparison to other Nintendo Switch releases. And again, that's not indicative of its quality. It could very well be a good game, but it's insignificant next to major Nintendo Switch releases.
Gearing up for Switch 2 because they know they'll never be able to outperform Spider-Man.
I mean, if you do the maths, then yeah, Spider-Man 2 was a bigger release for the PlayStation 5 than Super Mario Bros. Wonder was for the Nintendo Switch. Like, do you want me to spell it out for you?
It led me down this rabbit hole of like research, realizing that like Mario is actually a bigger brand than Spider-Man, you know?
Are you unironically going to try flex that a character primarily associated with video games is a bigger IP than a character who's primarily associated with films and books? You fucking idiot. Like, are you unironically gonna try flex that? Like, of course it's gonna be bigger in terms of the IP and how much it's worth, because video games are sold for a greater price than fucking books.
Realizing that, like, we've seen a huge decline in sales over Spider-Man over the past several years.
For comic books, yeah, that may be true, but that's not the fault of Spider-Man. It's more so the fact that comic books is largely an outdated source of media nowadays. But in terms of films and games, I'd argue it's the complete fucking opposite. Like, Spider-Man's never been more popular. I mean, seriously, name me a Spider-Man game that sold over 11 million copies in the first 6 months of its release. Like, go ahead, I'll wait. Also, name me a Mario film or anything like that that sold over $1 billion. Because Spider-Man has 2 of those. Debatably more if you include Infinity War and Endgame.
Like, realizing that, like, you know, the Mario movie is better than Spider-Man. It did far better than any Spider-Man movie.
No, you're a doofus. The Spider-Man movies not only made more money, however, they were also received much more positively by critics and received an overall higher score on Metacritic. So, no, try again.
You know, realizing that, like, the people who are praising Spider-Man are just hopping on a bandwagon and have no real inclination to like play video games at all. Like,
wait, are you unironically trying to say that people have jumped on a bandwagon since the fucking 60s when this character was created? Like, not gonna lie, dude, I'm pretty sure that after 60 years the bandwagon would have died, assuming that it existed to begin with. Also, the hilarious thing about all of this is that this is coming from the same guy who unironically praised Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, claimed they were great games, and said that the launches were just copes. How they were graphically fine and had no frame rate drops in the slightest. Like, really, who's the one jumping on bandwagons here?
It's kind of like the Baldur's Gate 3 thing again.
Oh, bro, fucking cry me a river. Like, just let Baldur's Gate 3 die. It's pretty fucking funny that you're the one saying, oh, Baldur's Gate 3 is irrelevant, yet you're the only fucker I know who still talks about the game.
Where, like, you just have a bunch of people trying to, like, meme this game into being successful. Like, oh, if we just, like...
Spider-Man 2 was successful. Realistically, any game that can sell over 10 million copies is a huge success. Not to mention that, once again, if you compare the numbers of, Nintendo Switches versus Mario Bros. Copies sold, and PlayStation 5s to Spider-Man copies sold, Spider-Man 2 was a bigger juggernaut for its respective platform than Mario was for the Switch. Sorry, bro, that's just how it is.
Type Baldur's Gate 3 onto Twitter over and over again. That'll create the illusion that the game is popular and talked about, right?
I mean, if people are talking about the game online, then yeah, that's not an illusion that people are talking about it. That's just proof that people are talking about it. Like, what the fuck are you even saying? Like, how the fuck do you write your own books? Like, a friendly reminder that this guy writes novels. Like, what the fuck? I'm scared to even think about the poor bastards who bought those books, when this guy is incoherent as fuck and just says the most random shit imaginable. Also, hey genius, maybe people just like Baldur's Gate 3. Maybe they like Elden Ring. Maybe they like Spider-Man 2. No one's trying to pull a fastball on you here. Like, honestly, this guy would give Joe Rogan a run for his money on conspiracy theories.
It reminded me a lot of that. Like, Spider-Man is basically like the PlayStation equivalent of Starfield.
Yeah, because in Starfield, you could totally web swing around New York City. And in Spider-Man 2, of course you could travel across the galaxy. Yeah, like, Spider-Man 2 is totally the Starfield of the PlayStation games, don't you know?
A game that has a ton of problems that very few people are talking about.
Despite being well received, Spider-Man 2 is not a perfect game, and people are more than talking about the criticisms of the game, believe me. Like, you have people like Synthetic Man and the amazing Lucas who overhype the issues that the game has, but nevertheless, the issues are still there and people are talking about them.
Purely because it's an exclusive, right? Like, the issue with Baldur's Gate 3 is that it's a PC exclusive. The issue with Starfield is that it's a Microsoft exclusive. The issue with Spider-Man is that it's a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, and are you gonna keep that same energy for the Switch games? Oh, look at Pokemon, it's shit because it's a Nintendo exclusive. Mario, shit, it's a Nintendo exclusive. Tears of the Kingdom, nah, that game's overrated because it's a Switch exclusive. Like, it's pretty hypocritical that you're using this argument against literally everything except your beloved platform.
You have all of these games that are exclusive to one or two platforms, right?
Yeah, and according to you, that shouldn't be a problem because you simp and dick ride basically every single Nintendo game ever released that ever does release on the Switch. So, yeah, what's your point?
You have these games that are just religiously defended by certain people who...
Glass houses, my friend. I mean, the lack of self-awareness here is fucking incredible.
Simply will not admit their flaws at all.
So the exact same thing that you do?
Right? Like, all you had to do to realize there was something up with Spider-Man 2 was ask yourself, how exactly is this game better than the Arkham trilogy?
So Spider-Man 2 isn't as good as the Arkham games, therefore Spider-Man 2 is complete shit and should be shunned for the rest of time. Got it. I mean, what the fuck even is this logic? Why does Spider-Man 2 need to be as good as X just to justify being good? Like, you're comparing apples to oranges here. Also, not gonna lie, if you gave me a notepad, I still wouldn't have enough space to list all of the things that Spider-Man 2 does better than the Arkham games, especially Suicide Squad. Or are you conveniently glossing over that one?
Right? Like, wouldn't that be its primary competitor? Like, the game you would compare Spider-Man against? Like, is it better than the Batman games? How does it innovate? What does it do? No,
you wouldn't compare the Spider-Man games to the Arkham games, because not only are they made by different developers, but they're also based around completely different fucking characters.
Like, does it use the rogue gallery? Is it, like, bringing back classic voice actors? Is it, like...
No, you know what? I'm completely done. I'm tapping out of this one. Like, you unironically just said, oh, did they bring back Batman's rogue gallery for Spider-Man? Like, you genuinely think they would bring back Batman's villains for a Spider-Man game? How fucking stupid are you? And yeah, the voice actors thing, yeah, they could have brought them back, but once again, different developers. New developers would have had to hire the old voice actors. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's like saying, oh, why didn't they get the voice actor for Captain Soap to voice Mario in the new games? It's like, that's completely irrelevant. Different studios would have to hire the actor. I don't even know. Yeah, I've never done this before. I've never tapped out of a video early. There have been times that I've taken breaks. There have been times where I've done it all in one go, even if I've hated my soul doing it. But no, this is the first video that I'm actively quitting on. I'm really sorry, guys, but that last comment killed me. If you want me to react to more of this guy's content, feel free to let me know. Subscribe down below, you know, join the Discord server where we talk about stuff like this. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bringing back Batman's rogues for a Spider-Man game. Fucking